And that, my dear cuck friends, is how you make a proper Earth margarita, I said, finishing my impromptu bartending demonstration with a flourish. The small group of aliens gathered around me in the makeshift bar stared at the concoction with a mixture of fascination and terror. Of my appointed liaison, and now drinking Buddy cautiously sniffed at the salted rim of his glass, his large, bulbous eyes widened even further, a feat I hadn't thought possible. Gral, this smells like it could strip the paint off a GRL battle cruiser. I couldn't help but chuckle. That's the tequila, my friend. Trust me, it tastes better than it smells. Besides, after the week we've had, I think we've all earned a stiff drink. As the cuck tentatively sipped their drinks and tried not to visibly recoil, I found myself marveling at the absurdity of the situation. Here I was, Commander GRS Till of the Terran Space Marines, playing bartender to a group of alien artists on a recently liberated colony world. If you told me a month ago that this is where I'd end up, I'd have laughed you out of the room. But the universe, as always, had other plans. It all started with a distress call, as these things often do. The cuck colony on Zia 5 had come under attack by the Grell, a particularly nasty bunch of lizard-like warriors with a penchant for slavery and a severe allergy to playing nice. Now, normally this wouldn't have been our problem. The Terran Republic had only recently joined the Celestial Confederation, and we were still figuring out which fork to use at the interstellar dinner table, so to speak. But as luck or cosmic irony would have it, my fleet was in the neighborhood running some routine exercises when that panic transmission came through. Well, let's just say I've never seen a group of bored Marines suit up so fast in my life. I still can't believe you came to our aid, Ofu said, interrupting my reminiscing. He'd managed to down half his margarita and was already swaying slightly. Your Confederation has ignored our pleas for help for cycles. I shrugged, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Yeah, well, sometimes you've got to be the change you want to see in the galaxy, or some inspirational crap like that. I took a swig of my own drink, savoring the burn. Besides, we humans have a bit of a chip on our shoulder when it comes to bullies. Call it a species-wide character flaw. The truth was, seeing the devastation the Grell had wrought on this peaceful colony had struck a chord. The cuck were artists, for crying out loud. Their greatest weapons were probably particularly pointy paintbrushes. The idea of the Grell swooping in to pillage and enslave them, well, it didn't sit right with any of us. Tell us again about the battle, one of the younger cuck piped up, his elaborate head crest vibrating with excitement. I groaned inwardly. This kid had asked for the story at least 3 times already today. But hey, who was I to deny a budding war historian? All right, I conceded, settling back in my chair. But this time I'm spicing things up. Every time I say GRL, you all have to take a drink. Got it? A chorus of uncertain chirps and whistles answered me. Close enough. So there we were, facing down a Grell fleet that outnumbered us 3-1. I began, watching as my alien audience dutifully sipped their margaritas. Now, your average Grell captain has all the strategic nous of a concussed Virizian slug beast. But what they lack in brains, they make up for in firepower and a complete disregard for their own troops' lives. I paused for dramatic effect, enjoying the rapt attention of my listeners. But here's the thing about us humans, we're crafty little monkeys. Give us a problem and we'll find a way to solve it, usually in the most ridiculous way possible. So while the Grell were busy congratulating themselves on their imminent victory, we were putting together a plan that would make Sun Tzu proud and probably give him a migraine. The next hour was spent regaling my captive audience with tales of our space battle. I may have embellished a little, or a lot, but hey, that's the prerogative of the victor, right? I told them about our daring maneuvers, the precision strikes that crippled the Grell command ships, and the moment their fleet broke and ran. And that, my friends, is how we kicked the Grell's scaly butts back to whatever rock they crawled out from. I finished with a flourish, draining the last of my drink. The cuck, now thoroughly buzzed thanks to my impromptu drinking game, chittered and whistled in appreciation. Ofu, swaying more noticeably now, raised his glass in a wobbly salute to the Terran, our unlikely saviors. The cheer that went up was heartwarming, I'll admit. But as the festivities continued, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that our job was far from over. Sure, we'd driven the Grell from orbit, but there were still thousands of the bastards planetside, holding Cuck settlements hostage. As if reading my thoughts, Ofu sidled up to me, his normally melodious voice now slurred. "Commander, what's our next move? The Grell still hold much of the southern continent." I sighed, the weight of command settling back on my shoulders. "We've got reinforcements incoming, but they won't be here for another 48 hours. Until then, we've got to make do with what we have." Ofu's eyes, if possible, grew even wider. "But surely you are not planning to engage them with such limited forces? The Grell still outnumber us significantly." I couldn't help but grin. "Ofu, my friend, let me tell you about a little thing we humans like to call guerrilla warfare." The next morning, or what passed for morning on this alien world, I gathered my officers in our makeshift command center. As I laid out our plan, I could see the mixture of excitement and trepidation on their faces. "All right, people, listen up," I began, my voice cutting through the low murmur of conversation. "We've got about 1,500 Marines planetside, and intelligence suggests we're up against roughly 10,000 Grell spread across 3 main encampments. Now, I know what you're thinking, those odds suck." A ripple of uneasy laughter went through the room. "But here's the thing, the Grell are overconfident, disorganized, and about as subtle as a supernova. We, on the other hand, have the element of surprise, superior tactics, and a secret weapon they'll never see coming." I paused for effect, enjoying the confused looks on my officers' faces. The Cuck had announced with a flourish. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, my EXO, Sarah Chan, spoke up. "Sir, with all due respect, the Cuck. The same aliens who faint at the sight of their own blood? The ones whose idea of heavy weaponry is a particularly pointy chisel?" I grinned. "The very same, Lieutenant. But trust me, they're going to be our ace in the hole." Over the next hour, I laid out my plan. It was crazy, borderline suicidal, and just might work. We'd use the Cuck's intimate knowledge of the terrain to set up a series of ambushes, drawing the Grell into killing zones where our superior firepower and tactics could even the odds. But the real kicker? We were going to turn the Cuck's artistic talents into a psychological warfare campaign that would make the Grell wish they'd never heard of ZF5. As my officers filed out, a mixture of determination and "our commander has finally lost it" on their faces, I turned to find Ofu waiting patiently in the corner. The poor guy looked like he'd been hit by a Grell battle tank, his normally immaculate head crest drooping sadly. "Rough night?" I asked, trying not to smirk. Ofu let out a low, miserable whistle. "I feel like I've been trampled by a herd of Jalan star beasts. What did you put in those margaritas?" I patted him on the shoulder, maybe a little harder than necessary judging by his wince. "The suffering is part of the experience, my friend. Now, how about we get some coffee in you and discuss how your people are going to help us kick some Grell ass?" The look of abject terror on Ofu's face was almost comical. "See, Commander, surely you jest. My people are not warriors. We create beauty. We do not destroy." I cut him off with a wave of my hand. "Who said anything about destroying, Ofu, my amphibious friend? We're going to create art. It's just that this art is going to make the Grell piss themselves." Over the next few hours, I outlined my plan to Ofu and a select group of Cuck artists. To their credit, they caught on quicker than I expected. By the end of our impromptu strategy session, I could see a glimmer of excitement in their enormous eyes. Our first target was the smallest of the 3 Grell encampments, housing about 2,000 of the scaly bastards. As night fell, or what passed for night on this weird planet with its triple moons, we set our plan in motion. A small team of Marines, accompanied by a group of Cuck artists armed with spray paint and explosives, infiltrated the perimeter of the Grell camp. The Cuck's mission was to set up their art installations while we provided support and laid down covering fire. The resulting scene was nothing short of spectacular. The Cuck, using their innate artistic talents and alien technology, had transformed the Grell's pristine battlefield into a surreal, nightmarish tableau of shifting colors and impossible geometries. It was a sight that would have left any art critic speechless and any Grell soldier gibbering in terror. As planned, we used the chaos to hit the Grell from multiple angles. The combination of disorienting artwork and well-coordinated marine strikes threw the Grell into disarray. By the time the Grell managed to regroup, they were facing a much tougher fight than they'd anticipated. It wasn't a perfect victory, but it was a start. And by the end of the day, the Cuck were proving to be invaluable allies. Despite their initial apprehension, they were adapting quickly and contributing more than I could have hoped. We still had a long way to go before we could declare the southern continent fully liberated, but the tide was turning. As I sat back in our makeshift command center, nursing a cup of what passed for coffee in this part of the galaxy, I couldn't help but reflect on the odd turns my life had taken. From a simple rescue mission to becoming a reluctant art critic and strategist, the universe had a funny way of throwing curveballs. "Commander," came the voice of Lieutenant Chan as she stepped into the room, "we've secured the perimeter of the southern encampment. Casualties were lighter than expected." The Cuck's artistic displays proved to be quite the effective distraction. I nodded, allowing myself a rare smile. "Good work, Lieutenant. And let's keep this up. We're far from done, but if anyone can turn the tide, it's us and our new allies. Besides, I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a very strange friendship with the Cuck. The universe might be a chaotic, unpredictable place, but for now, things were looking up."